Once again, this is another video from Coffee with Luis. Now, in this video, I am going to try out a previous recipe that I tried with the Aeropress, but this time I am going to be using a V60. So this recipe is all about using milk instead of water. So in the previous video, what I did was I had an Aeropress, I ground some coffee, and then instead of using hot water, I used hot milk. Now I know that this is a wrong idea. In the previous project that I did, I noticed a lot of problems. One specifically is the very slow rate when I used the when I plunged down the coffee through the Aeropress. Now, in this recipe, what I'm going to be doing now is instead of using the Aeropress, I will be using the V60. Now, to give it a bit of premise, in the previous project, one thing that really bothered me is the fact that it was really hard to push down through the Aeropress, and I was a bit afraid that if I pushed too hard, I would accidentally break the carafe that I used. So in this method, I thought, okay, with the V60, I'm not going to be pushing down anything. I just have to wait for it to flow down. Now, here is where my problem happened. With the V60, I have to wait for it to flow down. Whereas with the AeroPress, I can choose when to plunge down the coffee. Now, this is going to be interesting because, and you will see it later in the video, there is something wrong with using milk instead of hot water. So I will say this from the start, this is going to fail, and I want you guys to see how I failed with this project. By the way, if you're hearing that buzzing sound in the background, that's our refrigerator. There's nothing wrong with our refrigerator. I will have to get that fixed uh, sometime soon. But for now, please bear with me. I have a question for all of you guys. So while I'm doing all this prep, I am preparing my milk. I am adding a bit of sugar because I know that the milk isn't really gonna bring out all the flavor. But by adding sugar, I am hoping that I kill a bit of the bitterness. Uh, but I would like to ask you this question: have you guys ever tried experimenting with your coffee, just random things with your coffee because you're bored? And please comment down below. And I will try to, if I see your idea really good, I'll try to copy it and let's see if I can reach the same uh, as you did. And the milk is ready. First of all, I would like to clarify a few things before we start with brewing. So I used around 15 to 18 grams of coffee coarsely ground. It's around 16 clicks with that time more. I am using a origami, and it's not a basic, sorry, it's an origami, and I'm using a flatbed coffee filter. Now, with this experiment, what I hope to achieve is see if what happened with my AeroPress would also happen with the origami. So I'm pouring now the milk. My recipe for this, or my brewing method for this one, should have been 50 milliliters of milk every 30 seconds. And as you can see, for the blue, we are getting some really good coffee at the bottom. And I think this is what should have been ideal for this recipe. But then after slowly pouring them, like the second and third pour, I noticed flow rate was very slow. It was just the first flow rate that was fast. So the second and third was just 1 drop per second. But that means is that the longer the coffee or the longer the milk sits with the coffee, it kind of ends up being over extracted, leaving us with a very, very bitter taste. Now, this is the part where we reached a hurdle. So, as I was steering the origami, I noticed that it hadn't like dripped that much in the past 3 or 4 minutes. So it was stuck. The flow rate was like one drop every few seconds, and that's already been 10 minutes. I tried checking the bottom, was it stuck? I tried using the spoon to like push it out and see if the milk can like drip down. But no, it was just stuck. So this is my hypothesis. When the coffee grounds and the milk combined, it ended up creating like a clog at the bottom of the origami. So what I'm gonna do now is, since it already has failed, I'm going to separate what we have extracted, and then we are gonna test that, and then we are going to extract the remaining ones, the ones stuck on top of the origami, and taste the two of them. I know this has failed, but it's better that we learn and know what we failed rather than just saying, oh, we just copy everything from the internet. Okay, that's me washing my cup, sorry. This is the part of the video wherein I'm very frustrated because I was really hoping to make a good video for this, but hey, it's a learning experience. Coffee is all about failing and learning and making a better brew. So what I'm gonna do next here is that since it's no longer dripping coffee, I'm gonna be using this strainer, slowly pour down the coffee from the origami, and we are going to be tasting that. This is gonna be a bit dirty. I'm not gonna film the whole thing because I know it's gonna be a waste of time, but this is just one thing what happens when you make a mistake.
Hello. So this is the experiment that we just did. We tried making coffee using hot milk instead of hot water. So the one on this side is the one we successfully extracted, and this is the one that stayed on top of the V60 and wouldn't pour down. So I am going to taste both of them and we'll see if there's any difference. Okay, let's start first with the one that we were able to successfully extract. It's very bitter. I could say that because of the prolonged extraction from the coffee beans to the milk, it has created this very strong, very intense flavor. Whereas when compared to this one, with the other one was left on top of the V60 and wouldn't flow down to the carafe, this one doesn't really taste good. It kind of tastes like cold coffee was poured on instant coffee and they were mixed vigorously. It doesn't taste good. Now, what is the reason why we failed this experiment? So I believe there are two reasons I can find to say why this failed. First one is using the milk as the base for brewing this cup. I have done this experiment before, but I've done it with the Aeropress, and that's the second reason why I think this has failed. So the first reason is that when coffee grounds hits the milk, it doesn't like the flow rate is very slow. So if you can see in the video, it's already reached 10 minutes and the coffee has not drained down the origami. So, and this also happened with my previous experiment where I tried the milk and coffee combination on the Aeropress. With the Aeropress, it was so hard to push down. I was really worried I might break the carafe. With this experiment, it further proves my point that when you extract coffee through using milk as your base instead of water, the flow rate is very strong. So you would really expect a, how should I say, you'd really expect a over extracted brew. And in the previous video I believe I did two experiments. One was the finer grind and one was the coarser grind. Now, when we did finer grind, that's when we experienced the very slow flow rate. When we did the very coarse grind, flow rate was better, pushing it down was better, but it was very under extracted. So we are seeing two polar opposites. You go finer, you get more extraction, but very slow flow rate, and you would end up having it over extracted. While on the other side, when you give it a very coarse grind, it fails to extract as much coffee flavor as we want to. It becomes under extracted. So with this one, I'm not really gonna give a comment. As you can see, I still have coffee grounds here. I had a very weird way of disposing of this, but this isn't really drinkable at all. It's very hard to swallow and it's very over extracted, and well, at least I learned something new. Thank you. Please follow and like my videos. Have a great day.